Okay. Well, so good to be here with all of you. We have a good group today. Jaya Dave's also joined. Julian's also here. One of Ananda Krishna Prabhu's cousins. And who else? Somya Sham's in the other room. We're here at his home in Limerick. Welcome, Julian. Great to have you again with us. And I wanted to share some happy news that we've started a monthly Zoom meeting with our new Japanese friends, because there was just such an enthusiastic response when we were there, and so we thought we have to keep the momentum going, and so we started a monthly Zoom, and the first one was yesterday, and it was a wonderful turnout. We had 20 people join in the first meeting, and very diverse group. Persons of all ages and backgrounds. A few American fellows were thrown into the mix. We're living in Japan, and it was one day, and we went 2 hours, and they kept asking question after question. I had to stop. I was getting hungry and tired, so I had to wind down the meeting. But we could have easily gone another hour. It's just phenomenal. It's like it really feels like something totally new there. Like it hasn't, like Krishna consciousness just hasn't hit Japan yet, and so there's just so much freshness and eagerness there. The only place where I've seen something like that is in China, but it's so difficult there, because of the political situation. But to preach openly. But in Japan, it's a completely different story, and it's like almost like this childlike enthusiasm and eagerness and interest and so it's such a diverse group that we had. Like there was this one elderly gentleman. He was like very stoic and sober and sitting, like looks like a philosopher, like in his 70s, and very soberly listening without saying a word, no questions, no change in expression, but very intently listening to the whole thing with his camera on. And there's this sweet 17-year-old girl who's very interested. She was there. She had some nice questions, and we had someone with a background of Tibetan Buddhism who was very eccentric and kind of this wild hair and appearance and little wacky in his mood, and yeah, very interesting group. And so it's very exciting. It's very exciting. And we have this amazing friend, Ananda Moy, who's just an incredible networker and collecting a lot of people. And so yeah, I just wanted to share that good news. It's just exciting to feel connected to something kind of in this beginning stage. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. And I did have an anonymous question come in, so I will address that. But if anyone here has anything they'd like to bring up, oh, great to see some more faces popping up. I see Doyal Nitai, Doyal Nitai, Eli, got 2 Salt Lake City crew here. Giridhar Prabhu is here. Wow, what a nice surprise. We normally see Giridhar in our Wednesday program. Great to see you, Prabhu. And also Madhavi's tuned in. Wow, so many unexpected persons today. Eli, what brought you here today? Share something with us.
All right, there I am, unmuted. Hare Krishna. Divya, I heard. I'm happy to see you. My dandavats to you, Vishakha Devi Dasi. It's lovely to hear of your travels and your preaching. And I was led here by Radhana Rupini and Dayal Nitai Das, and recommended by lots of devotees. So I'm happy to hear, and that's all I have to say. But glories to Gauranga and Sri Giriraj.
Haribol, very nice.
Hari.
Yes, of course. Radhana Rupini Didi is also here. Our dear senior god sister tuning in from Hawaii. And Narottam Prabhu's also just tuned in. So do we have any special requests from our group today?
I had a question. I don't know if you remember.
Oh yes, I'm sorry, Gangalila. You did send me a question.
Yes. Do you remember?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did. It was too long ago.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I should have refreshed it. I should have refreshed it.
Yes.
It was a good. I remember it was a good question, but I don't remember what it was.
I probably phrase it better than I can do now because I'm obviously driving but last week we were talking about how Krishna provides all the material needs when it's offered in its service. And then my question was along the way of, yes, like, but my car, my food, my clothes, my home, is that supported if my service is indirect? Basically, right now I'm driving to serve, but I'm serving, I'm not creating a Krishna conscious event or such thing. But so my question is that, yeah, I don't know. I can't be clear on that question because it's difficult for me to think that way. Sometimes I'm in doubt. I'm like, oh, so I'm going on about I have to see some clients, but the nature of my business is that I tend to their needs, pains, and aches, and like some therapeutic work I do, and it always has moments like where I would chant, but it's not. I know that they are not interested in taking on Krishna consciousness, for example, but if I phrase it differently, they're very open to at least consider the divine. Is that still considered like a direct service? I don't know. I'm walking in circles because it's something I'd like to get clarity in my mind. Like to get a heads up. Am I,
Right. Yes, I'm remembering now some of the things you mentioned in your message, and yeah, I remember that point you mentioned, like, should I be preaching to everyone? Like, would that make it more of a devotional activity? I think you might have mentioned something like that. And I mean, we can accept that there is direct and there's indirect, right? And we can't force anything. Right? Everything should be natural. And we also have to use our common sense. We also have to think of the big picture. And, if you're meeting these people, you have to consider, what are they ready to hear, right? And they may not appreciate you, banging them over the head with Bhagavad Gita. Not that you would, but they may not appreciate, a preaching session. It may not be what they want. But sometimes subtle, is the most powerful way. I mean, I would say, like, generally speaking, you're someone, not generally speaking, but you are someone who is trying to become more Krishna conscious, right? You're a Krishna conscious person and you're trying to become more Krishna conscious, right? And you're also someone who has a life in this world and you need to maintain yourself, right? And as you go about your daily life, you can share the message with those who want to hear. Simply by being a good person, that's and you're wearing your tulasi mala, you're wearing your tulsi beads, you're not hiding who you are, and you're a kind person, people, you're kind, clean, nice person. People will see that and that will give them some appreciation. They will ask you about your life and you'll share something, and then that will give them automatically some respect. I always think of Jivana's example. Jivana Didi in our community in California. She's just one of like the nicest persons anyone could possibly meet. And she had quite a high-powered job at it was HP, and then maybe it changed later to another, maybe it was Cisco it changed to, you know, these big tech companies. And I you know, I just imagine her at work, you know, being the lovely person that she is. And I just think like that's actually such a powerful way to preach, you know. And our Gurudev, he actually spoke about this point in relation to one, maybe it was even that Ajita Krishna Brahmachari, maybe Chinmoy Prabhu remembers. It was one brahmachari living in our temple in Navadvip for many years, but he lived a very responsible life. There was an article that our Gurudev wrote about him, and we have one recording of our Gurudev speaking about him. I think it was him. But what was interesting about him is that he was very responsible in regards to his material life. You know, he was fully devoted, you know, to the mission of Mahaprabhu. He took initiation from Srila Sridhar Maharaj. But he also had a mother to take care of, and he had a job. He had, like, I don't remember the job, but it was some, you know, respectable, responsible work that he had, dignified kind of work. And he didn't marry, but he had his mother to take care of. So he like, in his heart, he wanted to go live in the temple, but he had this duty. And so he maintained his work, looked after his mother until she left the world. And he would, you know, he would sometimes share something with some of his co-workers. And as I recall, you know, some of them came to visit the temple. And then when his mother passed on, you know, then he resigned from his work and he gave up everything. He went to stay in the temple. But our Gurudev appreciate, you know, like how responsible he was, you know, and how, you know, he was a very, you know, dignified member of society, you know, and this was an indirect way in which he was preaching, right? And so I think that's a very beautiful way that our devotees can live. You know, you have your work that you need to do, you live an honorable life, and maybe you're not going out wearing, you know, devotional dress, you're not wearing Hare Krishna clothes and all the time. That may not be suitable for your work, but you have your beads that you're wearing, and, you know, it may come up in conversation, you know, what your background is, and nice people, they'll appreciate you're not pushing, you know, you're not trying to push your religion onto other people, but they're just seeing you're an authentic person, you know, you're someone who they can respect, you know. And that I think that can be a very powerful way, you know, to connect with people. And, you know, we don't, you know, and going back to what I was saying in the beginning, you know, there's direct and indirect. There's this verse, and it's in the Chatur Shloki, the 4 principal verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, as there's a Chatur Shloki in Bhagavad Gita, so there's also a Chatur Shloki of Bhagavatam. And one of those verses, how does it go? Anvaya vyatare kabhyam yatsyat sarvacha sarvata. And this point, one of these 4 verses, it mentions that one must always, all the time, directly and indirectly, continue in their search for the absolute along these lines, right? So anvaya vyatare. Anvaya is referring to like hidden, indirect. Vyatare, referring to like revealed, manifest. So our service life, our practice of devotion is like that, you know. And we can try to connect everything, right? So I'm, you know, working a job, but we can think I'm doing this because I need to maintain my life. Why am I maintaining my life? So I can continue in my search after the absolute. Right. Okay, maybe I'm not doing direct service to Krishna. That's not within my capacity at present for whatever reason. But I hold that aspiration in my life, you know, that one day I might get there. And in the meantime, I need to maintain my life and continue my search in whatever way that I can. Not everything has to be, you know, like a billboard poster moment. You know, wearing the tilak and the kunti mala and the sari, like it doesn't always have to be like that. You know, that may, and if we try to do something like that artificially, that may have a bad result for ourselves and others, those around us. And I sometimes remember in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's not one, but two occasions in our scripture, Chaitanya Charitamrita, there are two occasions when we see that some of the close followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they want to give up their worldly lives and go and stay with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But in both occasions, Mahaprabhu tells them, no, continue with your duty in the world. When the time is right, then you can come, right? One case is with Raghunath Das Goswami, right? He came from a very wealthy family. His family, they were billionaires, by modern standards, like the Rockefellers, very wealthy people. And he was the only child, right? The son and the only child. And naturally, he had a lot of pressure from his parents to continue with the family business and get married and so on. And Raghunath, it's a very interesting juxtaposition, because Raghunath, we could pretty safely say he shows the most extreme example of vairagya, renunciation, amongst all the associates of Lord Chaitanya Dev. Raghunath's example is more extreme than anyone else. And yet he was born in this type of family, right? So it's an interesting contrast. And so he was repeatedly trying to run away from home. He wanted to stay with Chaitanya Dev Mahaprabhu, and his family are bringing him back and giving him pressure. And then on one occasion, Raghunath got permission to go and visit Mahaprabhu when he was in the village of Shantipur. And at that time, Raghunath was coming with this desire to give up everything and stay with the Lord. But Mahaprabhu told him, literally what he told him is, he said, there's this verse, I find it quite humorous. He's saying Stira hoya gore jao na hao batul. Calm down, go home, don't be crazy. Literally what he tells him. Don't be emotional. No. And then he says, gradually one will cross over the ocean of material existence. Don't think you can immediately get it like that. And then similar answer when Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis, later they're working in very high positions for the Muslim government as the prime minister and the finance minister. And they send a letter to Mahaprabhu, like saying, oh, please let us come and stay with you. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sends back this cryptic kind of response, this Pada Vyasa Nini Nadi. There's this verse, and he's saying that it's a very cryptic answer. He just sends him this, that a married woman who has a paramour lover will perform her household duties very perfectly while relishing, savoring the taste of her lover in her heart, right? The feeling of her lover in her heart, right? So telling them, keep this within. You don't have to change your circumstances. Cultivate this within your heart. And this, in our Gurudev, I can also say, he gave similar instructions at different times, and what is all of this telling us, right? That this is an internal cultivation. It's not an external cultivation. And the internal and external, they may not match, they may not meet. And sometimes that's even better, because it keeps us in a state of hankering, right? It keeps us in a state of desire, right? So, and then if it is appropriate for us, then the opportunity may come, to live a, full scale, life, full expression, right, of a devotional life, where the two sides are both meeting. But that may or may not be for us. And ultimately, it's not what it's about, right? But the condition of our hankering, right, of our aspiration. Krishna consciousness is about aspiration. So I think that is how I would answer, right? We may not, the way we are carrying on our lives, it may not be direct service, but in an indirect way, we can connect it. And we can, as we're moving throughout our duties and daily lives, we can recognize, right, everyone we're coming into contact with, they're all servants of Krishna. Jiver Srupa Hoy Krishna Nityadas. This is everyone's identity. Everyone is a lover of Krishna. Everyone is a servant of Krishna. But they may or may not be aware of it yet. They may or may not be ready for that yet. Right? So let everyone's at different stages in their journey, right? And if they want to hear, we are always ready. We can try to live in that mood, right? Let me be a tool, right? Let me be a tool as the Lord wants to use me. No, I can say for myself, like maybe some people won't believe it, but I'm not someone who's gung-ho about preaching. Like that's not my nature. I really admire like people like Devi Shakti Didi. Like she'll just go up to people on the street, and talk to them. Some people are like that. They have that special quality, Braja Mohini, Chinmoy Prabhu, Ananda Krishna here. He'll go out and talk to anyone on the street, give them some books. I'm so shy actually, to do that kind of thing. And I only do what I'm doing because the devotees are telling me, oh, do this, come and talk about this, and come here and go there. And even to go to Japan was very hard for me, but because our Gurudev had asked me once, will you go to Japan? And I always had it in my mind. But so I don't live like that, like as a gung-ho preacher, I wish I was more like that, but I'm not. So, we can all go on and do our little bit, right? And we want to be used as tools, right? If the Lord wants to use us in a particular way, if the Lord wants to make us dance in a particular way, then let us dance, right? That was the beautiful prayer of Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada. Right. And have to mention Doyal Nitai. He's a super gung-ho preacher. He's brought a few persons I know. He goes out in book distribution every day. So that beautiful expression of Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, right? That I'm your puppet, right? Oh Lord, if you want to make me dance and make me dance, make me dance, make me dance, right? We can move like that. So I think that's my answer. Does that answer your question, Gangalila?
Yeah, thank you very much, Vishakha Didi. It was, I think I had this idea of, so my service is secondary, not good enough. Like, and it was almost like the first part of your answer was kind of keeping me in that place, like, oh, yeah. But then something shifted, and the second part of your answer was really moving me and making me more humble and really accepting the place where I am. And, I am ready and I'm doing my best. And what was I worrying about? And I think it's just that last week something was said about only when I directly serve, I will be supplied with what I need in the world. And I think that's where like a weakness of my faith may lie, like, oh, I cannot bring the word into my faith, but then I have to learn to do so, to accept that I, like, my worldly needs, or earthly things like cars and houses, etc. I think it's kind of touched on a deep-seated struggle. So I forgot, that I am doing the dance and I'm a puppet. So this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, and it's the other isn't better. I think I had a strange idea about making it less of an opportunity here for me, and it's maybe not like that so much.
And I mean, I like what you said about like being comfortable, with where you are, because I think that's something that's underrated in Krishna consciousness, like being accepting of who we are, and like, this is who I am, I want to be wealthy, or whatever it is, I want to be famous, like, there's different levels of devotion, right? So just being honest, like, and we can stand in front of the Lord in a naked way, like that makes his job easier, actually. Like, I want to be your devotee, but I also have this desire to be rich and famous or whatever, right? So you can do with that whatever you want. This is the track I'm on right now. You can move it how you want. This is we don't all need to be like here, just be accepting, even like in the way I live, like the fact, like me taking saffron, it wasn't really a choice. It was more like I reached a point in my life. Like, sometimes people tell me, oh, you're so brave, like taking this step, and you're so young. But it wasn't really like that. It was more like I didn't have any choice. I just felt this desperation in my heart. And I know there's nowhere, I don't have any choice, and I have material desires that I'm struggling with, but I also realize there's no other way for me to go. I got to jump in the deep end, right? That's the role that I have to play. That's that's what's on my plate, so. And that's something that the Lord and our gurus, our guardians, they can work with that. Like, if we're just honest, right? Sometimes conflating everything can be very dangerous and confusing. And, but let's just be clear and honest, about where and what we are and what we want. We don't have to conflate everything into one jumble. And, and we all have our unique qualities, right? Unique contributions that we're bringing. Everyone has something unique and special to bring to the table, to add to the conversation, right? And we can feel we have something to give too. We have some little spark of light to give that is unique and appreciated, that's making a difference, And we're standing naked with our arms open. Lord, use me how you want. I'm doing my little bit. I'm trying my little bit, and you can use me how you want. So thanks for bringing up that topic.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to bring up? Wow, so many beautiful faces today. Suyash Prabhu.
Yes, I had a question for you. I don't know if you remember the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, okay, vaguely. Oh, about consciousness.
Yeah, about the difference between like the world of the soul and the transcendental world and mundane world, and how like even the body can be transcendental and mundane. A little bit about that.
Yes, that is a very tricky this is a question I actually would like to prepare for. There's a section in Revealed Truth where Gurudev discusses this point. I'm trying to find. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, it's a very tricky point, right? So Suyash Prabhu's question was along these lines, right? That, from one perspective, can we see that actually everything is spiritual, right? And we hear from our Gurudev, from Srila Govinda Maharaj, that actually this is something that Srila Sridhar Maharaj used to debate even with his godbrothers, right? Because Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he he emphasized so much that everything is consciousness, right? And this is also, we can also say this is like the PhD level, right? And we're more in the level of like, Krishna good, Maya bad. This is spirit, this is matter. Like, this is kind of more our level. I think that's where I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with learning that, the ABCs, right? But then from a higher vision, right, actually everything is spiritual. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he always emphasizes that everything is consciousness, ultimately, right? In matter and in subjective evolution of consciousness, Srila Sridhar Maharaj discusses this point too, that matter is just a stage of consciousness. It's a particular expression, like diseased expression of consciousness. So it's a very tricky point, and we heard actually I seem to recall Madhusudana Maharaj telling me he was present once when Srila Sridhar Maharaj was debating this point with one of his godbrothers, and he was saying, I think it might have been Jajavar Maharaj, and like Jajavar Maharaj was saying, what about this chapati? Like, what about this table? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj emphasizing, is all consciousness, everything is consciousness. So, and then we can also add, like, Maya Devi, right? Like beginner level is, she's a scary, prison warden who wants to punish us, right? Or she's an evil temptress, a wicked temptress who wants to make us stray from the path, right? And sometimes that vision is helpful for us at a particular stage. It's helpful. Oh, it's the fight against Maya, the war against Maya, right? But then from a higher angle of vision, she's a very devout Vaishnavi. She's a pure Vaishnavi, faithfully serving Krishna, right? So yes, there are deeper and deeper angles of vision, right? And then, we hear how, right, divinity can enter everything, right? So the divine can enter the plane of sound, the divine can enter the plane of matter. And this is where there's a level of tantra, right, within Vaishnavism, like Shuddha Tantra, pure Tantra, right, where matter is spiritualized by the touch of divinity, right? And then that's no longer a mundane thing, right? Once something has been offered to the Lord, then it's no longer a mundane thing. So, but again, I don't feel qualified to really discuss these things. It's a very, very difficult, tricky subject matter, But I would like. Oh, could you? I'm getting an echo. They're playing in the kitchen. Yeah. Could you? Closed. Is that door closed too? But yeah, I would say, like, let's look in there's a section in subjective evolution where Srila Sridhar Maharaj is discussing this idea, and we can look there. But this is my simple answer. This is my simple answer. So I don't know if that's helpful at all, but I don't know if I can say anything else on that.
Yes, it actually is. I just wanted to understand whether I understand it the right way, I understood it the right way, or was it something that cropped up in my mind? So I just wanted to confirm if I understood it like the right way. Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Dandavat, I have a question.
Dandavat, Doyamitai Prabhu.
I wanted to ask if I can word it properly. When the liberated souls come to this realm, do they experience the human condition? Do they experience what we experience, or should we just see that they're perfect and they make no mistakes?
I would say they may have some experience as an observer, right? It's not that they will actually be under the influence, right? And this is, this is where there's some difference, right? And that there's some debate in the Vaishnava world, right? About how we won't open that can of worms, right? But our gurus have clearly explained that it is not possible for the liberated, and when we say liberated, we mean properly liberated in the sense of entering the, swarupena vyavastiti, situated in their eternal serving position with the Lord, the positive plane, positive expression of liberation, not the temporary liberation of the jnanis, of the muktis, right? But real liberation, situated in one's constitutional serving position with the Lord. From that position, it is not possible to fall down. And so those souls, if they enter this world, it's for some service, some mission of the Lord, coming to help the souls of this world. And it's not possible for those souls to come under the influence of the illusory energy. However, I believe that, and from my understanding, they may have some, as an observer, they may have, even you could say, like, in a sympathetic way, what are we going through, right? I've heard our Gurudev speak along those lines, like giving some indication of that, right? Sometimes we hear this idea, right, that the Guru has to take the toll, bear the weight of the sin of his disciples, right? And sometimes that idea may be helpful to kind of crack the whip and help the disciples get into line, right? Behave, right? That idea may be used like that sometimes. But that was someone asked Srila Sridhar Maharaj about that once. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he gave a helpful analogy, like how a doctor may feel some sympathy pain, right? Some sympathetic pain for the suffering that their patient is going through, right? Or we hear how sometimes husbands, right, they'll have some sympathetic pain in what their partner, their pregnant partner, their wife is going through, right? So that, there were a few occasions with Gurudev where he mentioned, like, for example, I remember one occasion he spoke about how he was getting some pain from his leg, but the way that he said it, it was very peculiar. It was like it was something very, very remote, something very distant from him, and another time I heard him mentioning something about calm, lust, and he was saying, yes, I've known what that is, but the way that he said it again, it was like something very, very remote. Hey, Gangalila, thanks for joining. Yeah, our time is shifted. Let's say there was another plan for our timing today. So he spoke about it like it was some very remote, distant thing that he'd come into some remote contact with, right? There's also this story we hear about Shankaracharya, and maybe someone here can remember this story better. Suvasini Didi was here; she could remember very well. But it was some type of puzzle or some question that he had. Shankaracharya, right? He was a great sannyasi, actually an avatar of Lord Shiva, right? And he propagated the Mayavad, right? Non-dual conception, impersonal conception of divinity, oneness with the absolute. And he, as a very young boy, he took up the sannyas order, the renounced order. And so he had zero experience of family life and women and so on. And there was one question or some situation that came to him that in order to answer properly, one would need to have some experience of worldly life and family life. And so what he did is he actually entered the body of a king. The king went into some trance for some period, and he entered the body of a king who had many wives, And so he had some experience of that. And he'd instructed his servitor, like, at the proper time, you chant this verse and that will awaken me from my stupor and like that. And then he came out of it, right? And then he was able to address that situation with the experience that he had, right? So like that, he had some experience, but he was completely aloof, completely detached from it. So yeah, I think there were one or two other things I wanted to mention, but I can't remember now. But I think maybe does that answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, there was some other thing I wanted to mention, but I can't remember. Anyone else have anything they'd like to bring up? So good to see all of you. It's a big group today. Steve is here, Leela Mandori's joined, and quite a few of the Narayani's joined also. Well, I will answer because I had wow, Subhadra, she's taller than Krishna. Subhadra, wow. I last saw Subhadra when she was like up to my waist. Now she's taller than her grandma. Hola Subhadra, ¿cómo está? In Spain. I did have one anonymous question come in about a recommended way to begin our day, right? And it's a nice, practical question. And I mean, if you look in the scriptures, if you look in Hari Bhakti Vilas, for example, there's some tight formulas given, right? In Hari Bhakti Vilas, as I recall, there's like recommendations, what to say as soon as you get up, what to say when you first put your feet on the ground. It's quite incredible when you're bathing. There all these guidelines are there. If anyone wants, they can look at that. But in a general way, we want to try to remember the Lord, remember the Vaishnavas as soon. Okay, Vadnavini, thank you for joining, Dandavat. As soon as we get up, we want to make some connection with that higher plane. And I would say there doesn't need to be a formula, And if you have the privilege of being in a temple, then you don't have to worry too much, right? You wake up to the bells, you can join the arati. But if not, then we have to make a little more effort, right? And I don't think there needs to be a formula, as I said. Everyone may have something slightly different. Can chant something, call out a name of the Lord, of the saints, can read something, can play something. One thing I often like to do when I wake up is play. We have a recording of our Gurudev chanting Bhagavad Gita verses, and I often will play it like a few chapters when I first wake up. It's very powerful to begin your day, and our Gurudev actually spoke about that one. Someone asked him, like, saying, we all have jobs, we're in the world, what's like an efficient and simple way by which we can upgrade our spiritual lives, along those lines. And our Gurudev mentioned this point, that if you begin your day with this, then that will set the tone for your whole day. It will make all the difference, right? And what's also very special, he shared his personal practice when he wakes up, and he said that he described how I think it was in Kolkata, he said he had like a kind of a simple altar in his room, and he had like a picture of his Guru Maharaj, a picture of the deities and Navadvip, a picture of the temple, a picture, I think Hanuman, there was a picture of Hanuman, and some of his personal favorite deities. He had some pictures of them there. And as soon as he woke up, he would make some prayers to them, chant some prayers to them. And then he said, and then wherever I am, because he's, every year he would travel around the world. And he said, then, and he said, wherever I am, when I wake up, I meditate on that altar, right? Even if I'm not physically there, I mentally remember that altar and I continue with those prayers and that worship, right? And it, you know, it's very powerful. Like you can start your day with that intention, right? I want to make this day an offering, right? Let me be used by you. Let me be your instrument, my Lord. You know, it's a powerful way to start your day. You know? And then if you can end your day with that, you know, that's also very wonderful. You know, and even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes, you know. And if you have more time, you know, if you can get up a little early, you know, could set aside 30 minutes or an hour, you know, to chant, to read, to hear, you know. And also I'll also add, I mean, I think most people bathe when they get up in the morning, but in case you don't, you know, it actually is quite a powerful thing. You know, I try to bathe twice a day, actually. It's a little easier now, it's a bit warmer. But I was sharing with Ananda Krish, you know, like when I started, I remember Navadip, because I noticed like Mahananda Madhusudan Maharaj, he was very strict about his evening snan, he would call it. Snan is like bath in Bengali. And I noticed like some of the others practitioners too, like they were quite strict about their morning and their evening shower. And I one day I remember deciding, okay, I'm going to do it too. And I it like changed my life, actually. You know, it's, you know, there's something to this whole sattva gun thing. You know, there's something to it. You know, being clean, you know, it makes a difference. You know, it gives you more of a clean consciousness and clean platform. Obviously, that's not the be all and end all, you know, and that's not necessarily going to make us better devotees, but it's something, being more clean in our habits, you know, in our personal upkeep, you know, that these things help, you know, these things help give some more clarity, cleanness in our consciousness, and change our energy, our vibration. You know, we cannot, you know, putting on, even, you know, if you're going to work, right, then you can't, you know, or maybe you can, some people do, but for the most part, you probably can't put on tilak. But you could do like a water tilak. I used to do that, you know, when I was going to university. I would do you know, like a water tilak, you know, and we have these mantras, right? We're applying their, you know, the idea is that we're making our bodies into temples, right? And there are, you know, there are prayers for marking these 12 places in our body, you know, with tilak. And you know, we can do this, you know, even just with water, you know, we can invoke Ganga water, and you know, do that. And there's this beautiful verse our Gurudev liked very much. How does it go? Shri Hari Mandiram. Oh, wow, it's really bad. I've forgotten it now. But there's this beautiful verse, which our Gurudev appreciated very much. And he spoke about this, you know, how through this Nija Dhyan, it's in our Archan Khan booklet, if anyone has one of those. Nija Dhyan, self-meditation. And our Gurudev spoke about how this, like, through this self-meditation, we can purify ourselves. And the verse is, how does the first line go? First word go? I can't remember. But the verse is describing, you know, this vision of ourselves, like with bright, clean cloth, clean body, you know, full tilak markings, and tulasi, you know, mala beads on our neck, and that's a divyam shihari mandiraj tilakam kantam sumalambitam, right? It's describing our body like as this hari mandir, like a temple of the Lord. It's divine, for the divine Lord. And yeah, and markings of the Lord's name on our arms, and so our Gurudev was saying, like, through this meditation, like, of self-purification, we can become purified and bring ourselves closer to lotus feet of the Lord. And that last line is very beautiful. Jayet Shri Guru Pada Padmanikate Sevatsukam Chatmana. And we are doing all of this, aspiring for the service of Shri Guru. you know, at the feet of Shri Guru, aspiring for the service of Shri Guru. So even doing this, like sitting for a 5-minute meditation, right? And recentering our consciousness, recentering ourselves, you know, and setting that intention at the beginning of the day. These are all like small, powerful things. You know, you could have like a 20-minute routine when you wake up, you know, just completely change your whole, I mean, I experience it all the time, you know. Like you're in, you know, I always experience when I go into kirtan, that's the most powerful, you know. I'm like in some down, dark consciousness. Go into the kirtan, you completely transform. You're a new person, right? So, you know, within a few moments, we can have a radical shift in our consciousness. So yeah, that was our anonymous question that came in. Well, we could wrap things up. Does anyone here have any final comment or question? Chinmoy Prabhu, anything you'd like to add? Always very happy to hear from you, Prabhu.
I'm just always very happy that I have the opportunity to host the Zoom meeting with all the devotees and with yourself. And soon I'll be able to be in your presence. So that's also, and the presence of the devotees there. So please give my obeisances to them all, and I will see them soon. And please forgive that I haven't been in much contact with them, but I am coming.
So Chinmoy Prabhu, I forgot to mention, we're actually on the same territory right now. We're just like a few miles apart. We're both in Ireland. And he's visiting. Oh, here's Somya Sham in the car. He's also here. He's our host. So Prabhu is visiting his mother, who's a bit further south, I think. And he's going to be coming to visit the community here Thursday. So we'll be all together then. That'll be cool. Okay. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. All the assembled devotees, sincere seekers ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Jai Gaur Premanande. Haribo.
Jai Vishakha Devi Dasi ki.
Haribo, Haribo.